Hello, welcome to the third part of our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript series. In this part, we are going to be adding more HTML and CSS as we prepare for the JavaScript later on. So we're going to add in elements that will help us to add dynamism to our document with JavaScript. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. So one thing, if you're starting the video series from here, please get the source code from the GitHub repo that is linked in the video description. If you've been following along, let's just continue from where we left off last time. All right, so let's go here to our first element in the body, which was the paragraph, and let's call it an article element. Let's rename it to article. All right, so then let's put a paragraph element. In that paragraph element, let's put a button. And I'm going to name my first button to change background to yellow. All right, so now let me copy this and paste it 2 more times. Okay. Okay, so now let me call this to orange. So really any colors, I'm just selecting this just for demonstration purposes, but as you see, these buttons will be used to change the background color of our web page. And let me call this reset background. Excuse me for the typo. Set background. All right. So let me give them some IDs that shall use for CSS styling them. We call it set background yellow. Okay, let me copy this ID here, paste it here, paste it here too. Let me call this set background to orange, and let me just call this reset background. Okay, so as you can see, the buttons are already here, 3 buttons. All right, moving on, let's move to the bottom of the element of our document, and let's insert another article here. And in this article, let's insert 2 paragraph elements. I'll add this, copy it, and then also paste it here. Okay, so in the first paragraph element, let's add 2 buttons too. I'll copy this button here, paste it here. Okay, so let me give an ID to this paragraph. Let me call it buttons, maybe paragraph. Let me call it para. Let me call this, so this button, let me say, let me call it show more photos. Show more photos. And then let me call this button hide photos. Hide photos. Okay, so let me give us an idea of let me give this button an idea of BTN maybe. Let me also give this one an idea of BTN too. All right, so I'm giving them the same ID. Let me call this BTN1 and this BTN2. All right, and then this one, this paragraph, I'm just going to call it, let me give it an idea of let me give it an idea of more photos. More photos, yes. Okay, buttons para, BTN, BTN2, and then this is more photos. Okay, Then this last article, let me also give it a class of reference article, references article. Let me add this here. Okay, so we've added some HTML to our document. These 3 buttons at the top, these 2 buttons at the bottom. Yeah, so now let's go to CSS and style them. Let me go under my ID selectors where we had stopped off last time. And here I'm going to start with the header, article. Let me look at it one more time. What was my ID here? Okay, let me give it actually ID. Let me call it header article. Header article. Okay, so if I come here, I'm going to call it header article. And I'm going to give it an ID of display. So display flex. So in this case, I'm using flex instead of inline as it was. So flex is a CSS functionality that allows us to align our contents of the HTML document either in a column or in a row. So we can decide to use the flex for the display property. So as you can see, when I put flex here, the buttons that were 3 in a line, here the third one, the background button, has now gone below, because now by default they would be in line. But now when I give it a property of flex, it gets confused whether they should be column or it should be in line. So now I have to decide to be specific. So in this case, I want both my the contents of the header article, which are this H1, the title, and the buttons in this paragraph, this second paragraph. I want all of them to be in a row, to align them in a row. So here I'll say flex as my first property for the display. Then I'll give it a flex direction, and that I'll call it a row. And as you can see, it's now getting into place. And then I'll give it flex wrap, I'll call it wrap, so that the contents can all fit within the space that is available for them. And then I'll say justify content. So how do I want them to be spaced in the row? And for this, I'll say I'll select space in between. Yes, and so if I maximize the page, you can see it has become pretty clean. We have the biography on this side, and then the justify content has created this space in between the 2 elements, and the paragraph that has the 3 elements, the buttons, has moved to the leftmost side of the screen, as the title is on the rightmost side of the screen. Okay, so now let's style our buttons. For that, I'm going to select all of them at the same time. Select background yellow. That was the ID for the first button. And we use a comma to separate between the different buttons. If you're going to apply the same styling to the same elements, and they all have IDs, you use they all have IDs or classes. You just use a comma to separate between them. The next was set BG background. And the first style I want to apply to them is the height. Here I'll give them 30 pixels. Excuse me. And then the width, let me give it auto. And then the margin of 10 pixels. This is going to be applied on all sides of the button, top, bottom, left, and right. And then let me give it a border radius of 5 pixels. So the border radius really removes the sharp edges, just makes them a little bit rounded, just for aesthetics. Right, so let's also now style the paragraph having these buttons, which we give an idea of buttons bara. Just to be sure, yes, we give it an idea of buttons bara. let's give it styling of margin top of 2%. Okay. Now let's move to our two buttons down here, which we called button 1 and button 2. I use btn. Okay, so ID button 1, button 2. Let's give them the same styling as we've given to the top buttons. As for that, just to save time, I'll just come copy these here and then press them here. Okay, let's format our document. Configure default format CSS features. Yep. All right, so we've applied the same styling to them, so they look similar to the ones at the top. All right, so now let's also try to give some style to this paragraph. Let me make the ID more photos down here. So ID more photos. And let me give it a display of flex. And then flex direction of row. Okay, so currently there's nothing. There's nothing in this paragraph, but we shall use JavaScript to add contents to it. Okay, and then let me add some styling to this last article that has a class of references article. For that, let me go to here where I was putting classes. This is references article. And I'm going to give it a margin top of 20 pixels. Of 20 pixels. Okay, so we've created a document. We added initial CSS, and we've also now further added in some other elements. These two buttons, and also a paragraph element that you cannot see right now that we shall use to add more functionality to it with JavaScript in the next video. So for this part of the video, I'm ending here. So this marks the end of part 3 of our HTML, CSS, and JS series. In the fourth part, I'll be adding JavaScript to make the web page dynamic for us to make changes by interacting with these buttons. Right now, these buttons are useless. You can click them, but nothing can happen, nothing can change. So we shall use JavaScript to add functionality for them to do what they claim to do by their titles, by what they're called. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe and give me feedback. Either like, share, or comment. Thank you, and see you in the next one.